The pristine white chamber of the Galactic Wildlife Assessment Committee buzzed with barely contained amusement as lead researcher Zex-427 flicked through holographic projections of Earth's wildlife. Their six-fingered hand moved with the practiced grace of someone who'd spent centuries cataloging alien species, but today there was an unmistakable hint of mockery in their gestures. And here we have what the humans call a lion. Zex-427 announced, their secondary vocal cords vibrating with suppressed laughter. Apparently they consider this furry quadruped their planet's apex predator. Note the primitive reliance on teeth and claws barely a step above their prehistoric ancestors. The assembled committee members chittered in agreement, their bioluminescent patches flashing in patterns of derision. One particularly ancient member, whose crystalline exoskeleton bore the prestigious markings of a thousand-world surveyor, actually had to excuse themselves to the carbon dioxide chamber to compose themselves. But surely called out committee member Nax 895, their sensory tendrils waving in feigned concern, there must be something genuinely threatening in their biosphere? The humans seem remarkably cautious about their wildlife. Zex-427 pulled up another hologram, this one showing a compilation of Earth's various predators in action. Observe their hunting patterns entirely predictable. No psychic abilities, no bioelectric fields, not even basic camouflage technology. They haven't even evolved natural plasma generation. The chamber erupted in tentacles slapping hilarity. Several junior members had to adjust their gravity compensators to avoid floating away in their mirth. And their defensive capabilities, Zex-427 continued, warming to their audience. Simple keratin scales, occasional venom that wouldn't inconvenience a juvenile centaurian, and in some cases their best defense is simply being too large to eat. Too large to eat. They paused for effect, letting their third eye roll dramatically, as if size alone could protect against any genuinely advanced predator. The committee's secretary, a being composed primarily of structured plasma contained within a ceremonial environmental suit, raised a tendril of energy. Should we perhaps consider their aquatic life forms? I've heard rumors. Ah, yes. Zex-427 interrupted, pulling up footage of Earth's oceans. They're great white sharks and killer whales, fascinating examples of evolutionary dead ends. No quantum sensing abilities, no temporal displacement tactics, not even basic tool use. They gestured dismissively with all three hands, swim around and bite things. The laughter this time was almost deafening. Several of the more gaseous committee members had to activate their emergency containment fields to avoid dissolving into particles from sheer amusement. I move to officially classify Earth's biosphere as Class 1 non-threatening. Zex-427 declared, their confidence absolute. Their wildlife poses no significant danger to any spacefaring civilization. Why, I'd let my spawn vacation there without a second thought. Seconded came the immediate response from half a dozen committee members. The motion passes unanimously, announced the chair being, their photosynthetic crown glowing with official authority. Earth is hereby classified as a Class 1 non-threatening biosphere. Let the record show that its wildlife is considered suitable for recreational observation by juvenile beings of all species. Just as Zex-427 began to power down their holoprojector, a small chime announced the arrival of a last-minute guest. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a figure that would soon make them all deeply regret their hastily rendered judgment. The committee's laughter died faster than a mouse in a snake pit when Dr. Sarah Chen strolled through the doorway. Her timing was impeccable or terrible, depending on whether you were her or them. She'd caught the tail end of their jovial classification of Earth's wildlife, and the smile on her face made several committee members' exoskeletons itch uncomfortably. She wore standard-issue xenobiological protective gear, but it was her t-shirt underneath the transparent protection layer that drew confused stares. Bold letters proclaimed, "Never smile at a crocodile," above a stylized image of what the aliens presumed was yet another harmless Earth creature. A few committee members' universal translators glitched trying to process the apparent contradiction. Why wouldn't one smile at such a primitive species? Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's xenozoological representative, she announced, her voice carrying the same tone a cat might use while watching a mouse that doesn't know it's about to become dinner. Please, don't let me interrupt. I'm finding your analysis of Earth's wildlife absolutely fascinating. Zex-427's third eye twitched nervously as they watched her settle into an observation pod. There was something unsettling about the way she arranged her data tablets, each one labeled with names that their translators struggled to process saltwater apex predators. Nile River dominance hierarchy, Australian water hazards. As you were saying about our primitive defensive capabilities, she prompted, raising an eyebrow at Zix 427. The researchers' bioluminescent patches flickered in embarrassment, but they pressed on with considerably less enthusiasm. Yes, well, as I was explaining, Earth's predators lack the sophisticated hunting mechanisms we see in more advanced ecosystems. They rely on simple physical attributes rather than evolved technological integration or psychic capabilities. Dr. Chen's smile widened just a fraction. She pulled up her own holopad and began making notes, occasionally nodding in a way that made several committee members feel like they were missing something obvious. Her fingers drummed rhythmically on one of her tablets, the one labeled Death Roll Statistics. The committee secretary, still in their plasma containment suit, noticed something odd about the human's vital signs. According to their sensors, her amusement levels were steadily increasing with each dismissive comment about Earth's wildlife. This seemed concerning. Perhaps, the secretary ventured, our distinguished Earth colleague would like to contribute to the discussion. Oh no, Dr. Chen replied, that predatory smile still playing on her lips. Please finish your classification first. I wouldn't want to bias your initial assessment with any additional data, though I do have quite an interesting presentation prepared for the survival rates near water bodies segment of today's meeting. The way she said interesting made several committee members' survival instincts tingle uncomfortably. One of them could have sworn they saw her mouth the words "just wait" to herself, but surely that was just a translation error. Dr. Chen's holoprojector hummed to life, displaying a serene African riverbank. Several committee members immediately began checking their personal devices, clearly expecting another tedious Earth wildlife demonstration. This is the Nile River ecosystem, she began, her voice carrying the same tone a Venus flytrap might use to discuss flower arrangement. Notice the peaceful water buffalo enjoying a drink. Beautiful specimen, isn't it? About 1,500 pounds of pure herbivorous harmony with nature. Zix 427 stifled a yawn, their bioluminescent patches dimming with boredom. Yes, another example of Earth's rather unimpressive. The water exploded. 20 feet of prehistoric fury erupted from the seemingly peaceful river, massive jaws clamping down on the buffalo with the force of an industrial hydraulic press. The committee's chamber erupted in chaos. 3 members activated emergency evacuation protocols, and one briefly evolved an extra pair of eyes out of pure shock. That Dr. Chen continued calmly, as if she hadn't just shown footage of nature's perfect killing machine, was a Nile crocodile. Although if you think that's impressive, let me show you its larger cousin. The footage shifted to Australia's Northern Territory, the saltwater crocodile. Note the bite force demonstration coming up 3 tons of pressure per square inch. That's equivalent to having a heavy cargo transport dropped on your lunch. The committee watched in horrified fascination as the saltwater crocodile performed its signature death roll, a maneuver that made several of the more physics-inclined members question their understanding of biomechanics. But surely, stammered Zix 427, their third eye practically spinning, these are isolated incidents. Surely they don't regularly. Dr. Chen switched to a split-screen display showing multiple feeding events. Actually, these ambush tactics have been refined over 200 million years of evolution. They're quite efficient. Watch this next clip. It's my favorite part. The footage showed a crocodile launching itself entirely out of the water, seeming to defy both gravity and the committee's assumptions about reptilian capabilities. Several members who had previously mocked Earth's primitive wildlife were now trying to calculate the power-to-mass ratio required for such feats. Now, regarding your earlier comments about defensive capabilities, Dr. Chen pulled up a cross-section diagram of crocodilian armor. These osteoderms are essentially organic tank armor, combined with a metabolism that lets them survive months without food, and sensory organs that can detect prey movements from remarkable distances. Well, let's just say there's a reason they survived what the dinosaurs couldn't. The committee secretary, their plasma form visibly destabilizing, raised a trembling tendril. You mentioned 200 million years. Oh yes, Dr. Chen's smile widened. They've remained virtually unchanged since the Triassic period. When something evolves into the perfect killing machine, there's really no need for upgrades. though they have developed some interesting hunting strategies. Would you like to see the footage of cooperative feeding behaviors? Cooperative squeaked a junior member who had previously laughed at Earth's simple predators. They're quite social when hunting. Here's some lovely footage of a feeding frenzy. Notice how they share the she paused, noting several committee members' complexions shifting to unprecedented colors. Perhaps we should take a brief recess? I haven't even gotten to the really interesting parts, yet like their ability to gallop on land or their colonization of marine environments. The chamber's emergency ventilation system activated automatically, detecting elevated stress levels among 97% of attendees. As the committee members tried to process what they'd seen, Dr. Chen casually flipped to her next slide, titled Saltwater Crocodiles, Why Beach Holidays Aren't Always Relaxing. Impossible, declared the senior evolutionary specialist, their tentacles twisting into the galactic symbol for scientific objection. Modern reptiles are clearly primitive. They lack advanced neural networks, they can't manipulate quantum fields, and they don't even have basic cybernetic integration. Dr. Chen leaned back in her hover chair, looking for all the world like someone about to spring a particularly delightful trap. Tell me, esteemed colleague, what would you consider the mark of evolutionary success? Why advancement, of course. New features, improved capabilities, adaptation to. Wrong. Dr. Chen's interruption cut through the chamber like a crocodile through wildebeest. The mark of evolutionary success is survival. And crocodilians. They've survived everything Earth has thrown at them for 200 million years. They haven't changed because they don't need to change. They achieved perfection while your ancestors were still debating whether to evolve out of their quantum foam state. She pulled up a holographic display showing crocodilian anatomy. Let's talk about their primitive features, shall we? Their armored hide can withstand impacts that would shred your most advanced battle suits. Their neural network might not be quantum-based, but it's optimized for one thing: killing. Their sensory organs can detect prey movements from hundreds of meters away through water, earth, or air. But surely, protested another committee member, any species that remains unchanged for so long must be stagnant. Dr. Chen's laugh made several members' survival instincts kick into overdrive. Stagnant? They've maintained their position as apex predators across geological eras. While other species were frantically evolving just to survive, crocodilians were sitting pretty at the top of the food chain, watching the evolutionary rat race with what I imagine was considerable amusement. She switched the display to show hunting statistics. Their hunting success rate is higher than any of your supposedly advanced predators. Their ambush techniques are so perfect that prey species haven't developed effective countermeasures in millions of years. Why? Because those who tried didn't live long enough to pass on their genes. But their brain size relative to. The brain size argument. Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with academic bloodlust. Let me introduce you to the concept of efficient design. Every cubic centimeter of a crocodile's brain is dedicated to being the perfect killing machine. No waste, no redundancy. Just pure predatory perfection. They don't need to contemplate quantum mechanics, they're too busy being living examples of optimized evolution. The evolutionary specialist's tentacles drooped. But our studies of Earth's fossil record clearly show that larger, more powerful reptiles existed in the past. Surely these modern specimens are merely shadows of their ancestors. Interesting you should mention that. Dr. Chen smiled, pulling up new footage. This clip was taken last week at our Australian research station. Watch what happens when a 5-meter saltwater crocodile decides the research boat is in its territory. The resulting footage caused 3 committee members to spontaneously molt and 1 to temporarily lose molecular cohesion. That, Dr. Chen concluded, is what 200 million years of evolutionary perfection looks like. They don't need quantum fields or cybernetic integration. They achieved perfection before your species figured out how to maintain stable matter states. The committee's emergency reclassification meeting was the fastest in galactic history. Tentacles, appendages, and plasma tendrils all shot up in unanimous agreement before the chair being could even finish their sentence. Earth is hereby reclassified as a Class 5 extremely hazardous biosphere, they declared, their photosynthetic crown practically strobing with urgency. All recreational visits are immediately suspended. Warning beacons will be deployed at all standard approach vectors. Oh, thank goodness, Dr. Chen sighed, prompting several committee members to look at her hopefully. I was worried you might rush into this classification without letting me finish my presentation. Because you see, crocodiles aren't actually our most dangerous predators. The hope in the chamber died faster than a mouse in a snake pit. Not. The most dangerous, the secretary's plasma form flickered erratically. What could possibly be more dangerous than your aquatic ambush predators? Dr. Chen's smile would have made a great white shark proud. Let me introduce you to Australia. She pulled up a new holo presentation, its title floating ominously: Australia, where everything wants to kill you. Everything, squeaked Zix 427. Everything, Dr. Chen confirmed cheerfully. The mammals, the reptiles, the fish, the insects, even the plants. Would you like to start with the bouncing herbivores that disembowel their enemies, or the birds that weaponize the cassowary's entire evolutionary line? The committee watched in mounting horror as she flicked through images: spiders that ate birds, snakes with enough venom to kill small armies, and jellyfish so toxic that their sting could stop a heart in 3 minutes flat. But how do humans survive there? The evolutionary specialist's tentacles were tied in literal knots. Oh, we don't really survive, Dr. Chen shrugged. We just sort of exist in a constant state of strategic retreat. It's actually quite exciting once you get used to it. Would you like to see our national warning system for ranking how likely various creatures are to kill you on any given day? The chair being's crown had gone from its usual vibrant colors to a sickly pale. I believe we may need to create an entirely new classification category. Excellent idea, Dr. Chen beamed. And while you're at it, you might want to consider adding a special note about our oceans. Did you know we have a sea snail that fires venomous harpoons? And don't even get me started on the blue-ringed octopus. Now there's a creature that really... She trailed off, noticing that half the committee had entered voluntary hibernation states. The other half were frantically adding new warning classifications to the galactic database. Perhaps she suggested innocently we should schedule a follow-up meeting? I have this fascinating presentation about the inland taipan's venom efficiency ratings. The sound of multiple emergency teleporters activating was her only answer. 5 years after the infamous crocodile incident, the Galactic Wildlife Assessment Committee finally recovered enough to hold regular meetings again. Their first order of business, creating an entirely new classification system for Earth. The new rating was elegantly simple: Class X, just don't. The official documentation, now required reading for all spacefaring species, included such helpful warnings as: if it looks cute, it's probably deadly, and warning everything in Australia is accurate combat data, not exaggeration. Dr. Sarah Chen became the most sought-after lecturer in the galaxy. Her presentations always sold out, particularly after she started her famous Things That Make Crocodiles Nervous series. The sight of hardened space marines fainting during her honey badger lectures became something of a galactic tradition. Her most popular course, Why Earth's Harmless Animals Are Laughing at You, featured greatest hits like the platypus evolution's practical joke and hippos, because sometimes nature just wants to watch the world burn. The committee even created a special addendum to their wildlife handling protocols: if Dr. Chen is smiling while describing an Earth species, evacuate immediately. Yet somehow, the most terrifying part of her lectures was always the end, when she'd lean forward with that predatory smile and say, "So, you think crocodiles are scary? Let me tell you about honey badgers and why even the crocodiles try to avoid them."